show you where the ducts is after.
Sounds good to me.
I can definitely show you, and I know where the cameras are. And I'd love to give spray fuck you on that.
Alright, so next question. And I know we already started to speak to this in a lot of the previous ones. But what problems are caused or contributed to by the disconnect between people and production of the food they eat? If we could start with you, Julia.
Oh, what was that hand up? Thinking about cameras and rubbish bins, how does it even make sense? Sorry.
Sorry. Oh, trust me.
New Zealand is a particular outlier in the fact that we actually do prosecute beef production.
Oh, yes.
Very, very few other countries do that. Anyway. So what problems are caused or contributed to by the disconnect between people and the production of food they eat?
Yeah, that's kind of huge. So, again, back to what I know of, and when I spend time with the families that I work with at Ikuni, the lack of health is really alarming. The lack of health, not just within the adults. So there can be, we have families that for maybe 3-4 generations haven't grown anything. And so when you haven't been anywhere near a garden or have been having any kind of farming experience and you're 3rd or 4th generation of that, your food starts to look pretty shit. And so does your food skills in terms of being able to prepare something from scratch. And so, of course, when you are raising children within a household that looks like that, we have some pretty alarming statistics. Obviously, everyone knows about the diabetes epidemic in this country, but we also have this other huge one with the gut health of our children and the highest hospitalisation rates that we've had in the Hutt Valley in recent times have been all to do with skin disorders, because our children are just got these terrible things going on in their tummies. The thing that I'm currently working on is a project with corrections, because this whole issue around not knowing what to do with real food and a reliance on packaged food has meant that the highest rate of recidivist offending in Lower Hutt has actually been around food theft. It's not domestic violence and it's not drink driving like everyone assumes, it's actually people stealing food. And that's not necessarily because they don't have the money to buy food, it's because they don't have the skills to know what to do with it. And so therein lies another industry of prison and corrections and community service and fines and the whole cyclic thing that comes with that further debilitates a family. So we try to work alongside those people by teaching growing and cooking skills into the community. So on so many levels, this idea of food and what real food looks like and what we do with it. One thing that has really struck me of working where I work is no sense of seasonality. So the children and the parents really struggle with knowing what seasons are. I mean, you wouldn't believe it, but it's true. And then what foods are applicable to what season. So there's that real disconnect between themselves and the earth and this beautiful cycle. And that's really what we're trying to do within the project that I work in. It's not so much just create a whole pile of food, but to connect people to the big cycle. So it's not just about food, it's about compost, it's about sharing, it's about closing the loop like we were talking about before. And I think if we can have more of those kind of urban food projects, certainly with the stuff that Sarah is encouraging around the community, then we have a greater chance of changing those outcomes for those children and families.
Tim, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I think just to what I was talking about before, when we're continually being sold to in the supermarkets, right? And because of that, the food that's on our supermarket shelves, the apple, right? It's been bred for different things other than nutrition. It's been bred for size, it's been bred for looks, and it's been bred for shelf life, right? Because of that breeding scenario, it's actually lost certain traits, and it's generally nutrient deficient. So when you get that apple, it looks great, but when you eat it, you're probably not getting the sort of minerals that you might have got when you were eating the apple 40 years ago, right? So I think it's been proved and proved and proved now that a healthy soil produces a healthy plant that produces healthy food that produces healthy humans, right? And I think we're getting a disconnect between that chain, right? So now more and more, and particularly in the community garden scenarios, we're planting more and more heirloom trees, and these are the older generation and varieties of trees that are actually being bred for their taste. And when they taste good, they're actually mineral rich. Now, there's this field of epigenetics, which I'm sure you're all aware of, where what we've proven now, I'm not proving it, but other people are, is that elements of what we pass on to our children are picked up as we experience and as we eat things. Right? So your DNA is not a fixed hard code. There's a certain portion of it which is, but there's an awful lot of it which actually changes generation to generation. And there's a study called the Dutch Hunger Winter, I think that's what it's called. And this was a generation of people that had been put in, there was a drought, I think it was, tell me if I'm wrong, but where they actually didn't get decent food. And the deficiencies in their food led to a whole lot of sicknesses, not in them, but in their offspring, but also in their grandchildren. So to me, it's really about trying to reconnect with our food, and in a way that we're growing this healthy food so that we're actually fueling our bodies and our minds, and then we're actually able to pass those traits on to our children and our grandchildren.
Our food has just plummeted in the last 50 to 100 years, particularly since the Second World War. I mean, our technology is heat and beat, you know, high temperature, high pressure, just something like the whole stuff and take literally much of the stuffings out of it. And as Tim said, we actually breed like for storage and for convenience of production. You know, I'm sure you're all aware that a lot of people have a gluten problem now with wheat. Well, wheat's got far more gluten than they used to have. It's been bred for gluten. It's called baking score if you're a farmer. And you get paid more if you get a higher baking score, which means you get more sticky protein. Sticky proteins mean you can fluff up white brie, make it all fluffy and it sticks together. Now the sticky proteins that do that. The non-sticky proteins are the hardest to digest. Surprise, surprise. You put a whole lot more sticky proteins in it. You take all the other stuff out of it that might have helped you to digest it. And then you wonder why you got the gut problem. I mean, it's and you talk about epigenetics as well, and the gut's really interesting. And a few scientists are now starting to actually go back and look at all the microbes in our guts. You might realise, but in your guts there's millions and billions of microbes. In fact, there's more weight of foreign bodies in you than the cells of your own body. You might realise that. Cell counts. Yeah. So most of them are in here, and you actually get food, not directly through. You get a little bit through stomach lining and the acidity there. You mainly get food through the microbes doing their thing and eating it and dying and then passing it on to your bloodstream. Exactly the same way as the microbes in the soil provide it to the plant, and there's a way between the plant and the soil. And one of the reasons that the people are getting all these gut problems is because part of basically your immune system is half driven by your guts. And there's some part of that that's DNA fixed. And some part of it responds to food. Because if we eat different food, obviously we have to have different microbes here, and it's a relationship and that sort of thing. So in different climates and different places, people eat different food and have different microbes to deal with it. And so the body can adapt and can do that. But there's some fixed DNA that gives you a certain immune response from that fixity. And that's the problem we're getting now, because our food is so poor that the microbes that actually work on that fixed part of the immune system within your gut won't work. And that's why you get a huge lot of problems with the gut. So, yeah, the short answer is a complete disconnect. and our nutrition has just plummeted. And so we've got to, I do. I feel sorry for all of us, really. The food we take in. And then we wonder why our bodies won't work properly. We think that our minds won't even work properly. People have adult brains, they can't even think straight. Because they don't have good nutrition. So,
the only disconnect I was going to talk about is the fact that the biggest producer, I think, is dairy in this country, and 98% of it is exported, so we aren't eating it. Most of it is going to replace breast milk in other parts of the world, and mostly so that women can go and work at factories and So it's a huge issue. So I guess that's a massive disconnect for this country in that we need those overseas, we need some overseas income for the life, to keep the lifestyle going that we can argue all day, we'll think about whether we need that lifestyle or the whole issue, but the people that are running the country at the moment think that's a really important thing, and so that's, we're taking a huge amount of a hit in our natural capital to supply something to the rest of the world that's actually probably not all that good for them anyway. So that's a huge disconnect, I think.
And I feel like food is a way into natural connection. I think a lot of us have heard about the nature deficit disorder that a lot of people living in environments now suffer from. And I think that food is often the way that people connect with the environment. I think of things like as working in a community garden and seeing little kids come along, they run over and they collect strawberries because they know naturally to go and collect them. And I think that's just a natural way that we relate to our environment is through eating often, and being able to get food and find food. And I think within New Zealand, it's actually we haven't grown up like that because our natural environment doesn't have food or didn't traditionally have food in it. And so I think it's kind of a different way of interacting with our natural environment. So we have a biodiversity plan which puts in a whole lot of native plants, but it doesn't include edibles in that. And I think that I really support the biodiversity plan, but I think that we also need to start including food and thinking about food in those greater planning of what it is that a natural environment that actually supports human and sort of the edible environment and how we interact with food. So one of the things I see in having the kind of urban agriculture portfolio is actually having food available in the city, so that when we have little, you have the pocket gardens around the place, they have things like strawberries or little cranberries or just bits so that people actually interact, so we don't just look and go, oh, that's a nice flower. So it's actually a way of, and that's how we learn things like seasonality. Oh, look, this is the season strawberries are in season. Oh, this is the season that we can get, whatever it is, the different seasons. Those are the ways that we just inherently and sort of intuitively understand seasonality. But because we don't have that, it's quite a massive disconnect that we have to a lot of that, and it's our urban environments in particular that really are lacking in a lot of that.
Probably don't need too many more blackberries though.
Sure.
Might skip questions for this section and then we'll go on to the last question for the first half, and then we'll get all the questions from the audience before the break. So we'll jump straight to the next question. What are some injustices in the food system, access to food, water, arable land, etc., and how might these be affected by climate change?
We're looking at climate change from a biodiversity point of view, is some of the work, especially freshwater biodiversity, and we're already seeing the impacts on it. And so, it's hard. You can't separate out these things now because we've messed with our freshwater ecosystems so much already that trying to take it apart is really hard. It's kind of overwhelming the effect that climate change will have, and I think it's there's so many studies that have looked at it, and we're still just really in guesswork. We know that we're way less resilient in our systems now, so they're on the edge, and so it won't take much to push them in.
Does anyone else have anything to add, particularly to the food injustice?
Well, I'll make a comment of what quite on from Mike in terms of who gets hit hardest if the storm comes and get damaged. Well, the uninsured, obviously. Who are the uninsured? People who can't afford it. I don't think there's any doubt that we're going to get more severe storms and our rivers, which are wild and woolly rivers already, are going to really start to respond in a different way. They're going to actually go to a different regime. And if you're at the front line of that, you're going to be really hit hard. And my real concern is we don't seem to be a very good society in terms of looking after everybody. And people get knocked that down. If you haven't got insurance, it's just hard. And yet, we all live in a society. We all need each other. We are actually a society, and what happens to the whole society actually affects all of us as individuals. and we might like to try and hide away, but